Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all looking so full of energy. Today I'm going to give an overview of some general principles and issues relating to land management and ownership. Very important. If we look at history, it seems that much of it concerns conflict over religion, economic power, and land. Often all three factors are involved together. The first question one asks when talking about land is, who owns it? What you can do with land you own depends on one's political views. A far-right conservative may say ownership is the socially supported power to do what you want with the land you own, with no control by government, as long as what you do with it doesn't hurt others. You can imagine how different factions interpret hurt others. By contrast, the political left, socialists and, more to the left, communists say land ownership, private land ownership that is the root cause of much injustice in the world, and that the social protection of private land ownership can result in tyranny and oppression. They therefore argue for state, public and cooperative forms of land ownership. I would mention here that most of us take for granted the idea that everything must be owned by a person, people or an organisation. But some societies, notably some native North American tribes, seem to have no concept of personal ownership. It was normal for them simply to take anything they needed and for others to take it from them if they needed it. When European settlers came, the Indians behaved as usual, which led the Europeans to seeing them as thieves. But the European settlers grabbed the Native Americans' land, their most important possession. So who were the real thieves? However, in this day and age, it would be futile to think of getting rid of the concept of ownership. But let me return to land ownership. It's a complex issue. For example, should the owner have exclusive control over the rights of way, like traditional footpaths, or the migration routes of wild animals, or the ecologically important wetlands? Should the owner be allowed to destroy the whole lot by building expensive houses everywhere? Or what if the owner discovers hidden treasure that once belonged to the royal family? All such things raise questions of the rights of the owner as opposed to the rights of others, including animals perhaps. Clearly, divergent views on such questions are a constant source of argument. What did the classical economists say about land ownership? Their positions were often rather ambiguous. Many of them seemed to consider it a necessary evil, and argued that it could not be defended if there was not some obligation to keep and improve the land. This is the concept of stewardship, that the land must be kept in good condition for future generations. But what if the owners were good stewards of their vast estates, but millions were going hungry? The Marxist answer was, and still is, land reform as a means of social justice. And in the 20th century, I mentioned ecological issues just now. Other reasons for legally restricting the rights of landowners have emerged. You can't cut the trees down because it would cause soil erosion that can spoil rivers hundreds of miles away. Pollution, the need to protect biodiversity, things that reduce the level of what we called nature's services to the general public. All have led to more restrictions on landowners' rights, at least in some countries, especially Europe. At the same time, property taxes have steadily increased to pay for essential services offered by the state or local government, such as firefighting. As these threats to the health of our planet get more serious, some people have argued that the ownership of natural capital, forests, wetlands, etc., will more and more be controlled by communal and not by private bodies. For example, the use by multinational companies of native plant varieties for modified crops and new drugs, plants that they seldom paid for in the past, are now increasingly recognized as belonging to the cultures or ecosystems from which they originated. But it seems to me that having the land and its flora and fauna owned by governments is no guarantee that they'll be used wisely, rather than for short-term profit. The evidence is that local ownership protected by law is usually the best answer. Okay, it will soon be time for a break, but before we have our coffee, I will give the answers to the two questions I asked you last time. What are the differences between leasehold and freehold? Essentially, the former allows possession for a limited time, while the latter is a special right granting the full use of real estate for an indeterminate time. In this country, most houses are sold with the land, and the house itself freehold, whereas many flats are sold with a lease which was issued by the freeholder to the original leaseholder. The flat is then effectively owned by the leaseholder for an agreed number of years.
Good morning, Miss Jones. I'm David White, our personnel manager.
Good morning.
Please take a seat.
Thank you.
Well, did you manage to find us easily enough?
Oh, no problem. But the traffic was terrible. I was terrified I'd be late.
Well, you made it on time, so no problem. How did you get here?
I took the bus, but even the bus lane was blocked.
I know the problem. Well, let's start with a few personal details to make sure everything on the printout of your application form is correct. Our computers have been doing funny things lately. Full name, Penny Ann Jones.
Yes, that's correct.
British citizen, date of birth, January the 3rd, 1980.
That's right.
And your address, 28 Green Lane, Oxford.
Actually, no, that's my old address. I was living there when I applied, but now I've moved to flat 502, 56 Rose Gardens. But it's still in Oxford.
OK, I'll just change that. Good. And is your home phone the same?
Yes, 7984865.
And your email, jenny27@hotmail.com?
Yes, that's it.
And you have a first-class honours degree in public health management from Keele University?
Yes.
What made you choose this major, Miss Jones?
Well, both my parents are doctors, and I got my interest in health and things from them. But I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a doctor myself. At the same time, I wanted to be involved in the health field, and I thought public health management would be ideal. Also, I've always been interested in politics and the environment, so I figured this would allow me to satisfy various interests.
I can't disagree. Us workers in the county public health department are often faced with a health threat from pollution or unsafe working conditions. We try to do something about it, and most companies or government departments are very cooperative. But it's not unusual to find a company that isn't. They start threatening things like loss of jobs, and of course that's always a political hot potato, especially with unemployment running around 11% in the country. So, what do you think about such things, Miss Jones?
Well, I think the first thing is that some companies think meeting environmental standards is expensive, but so many companies find that they can reduce costs by adopting cleaner technologies, seeing waste as resources, that sort of thing. And as for dangerous or unhealthy working conditions, if they don't get fined, then sooner or later there will be a big lawsuit, which is always expensive, even if they win.
Good, I agree. Oh, how rude of me. Would you like a cup of tea, coffee or something?
A coffee would be lovely.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Sunny Skies Nursery School. My name is Doris Matthews, and I'm the headmistress. First of all, I'll describe our philosophy of early education, along with our teaching principles. I'll try not to sound like a teacher giving a lecture. Then, we'll have a tour of the school, and finish with tea and sandwiches in the staff room, where you can meet our teachers and administrative staff. They will all be very happy to meet you and answer any questions you might have. First, as you know, we base our teaching, or should I say learning, because we try to help our children discover and learn for themselves, rather than simply try to teach them facts. We base our efforts on the principles discovered by that wonderful Italian educator and doctor, Maria Montessori. This means we believe learning best takes place in an atmosphere in which the children interact a lot and learn from each other. This encourages them to be lifelong learners and problem solvers. For decades, many studies have shown that children, and even us adults, learn through the senses. Our children learn by manipulating materials, toys, sand, blocks, almost anything, and interacting with others. They have fun as they learn, and these experiences help them to form, on their own, with of course a little bit of help from the teacher, abstract ideas. We try to cultivate the whole person, believing that the spiritual, emotional, physical, cognitive, and social interests and needs are all equally important and interdependent. We also do our best to foster respect for each other and the environment. We find that our school garden, where they learn the magic of life, the need to recycle organic resources. How sad that so many people around the world think their kitchen waste is just that, waste. And maintain healthy soil for growing our food. But you'll see for yourselves. You'll be able to taste some of our home-grown tomatoes and things when we have a snack in the staff room. Some of our children's most magical moments have been when they see the seeds they planted sprouting up through the soil. Well, that's enough about our philosophy and method of education. I'm sure we'll enjoy chatting about it some more when we meet the staff. Now I'd like to show you around. It's a lovely day, so we'll start with the vegetable garden. I'm sure you've all guessed that we are very proud of our garden. You can see it outside the balcony. It's on the south side of the school, so it gets lots of sun. On the left, the east side, you can see the classroom block. Actually, we don't see them as classrooms in the normal sense. They are more like activity and play centers. And on the opposite side, we have the dining hall and the kitchen. Behind us, across the courtyard, we have the offices and the staff room. So, out we go. So, here we are in our garden. We grow all the vegetables we need for the children's and the staff's lunches for the whole year. The greenhouse you see over there is a great help in the winter and spring. I can't begin to tell you how much the children love their garden. And they learn so much. Not just how to grow things, but also arithmetic, weights, and measures. They love seeing how heavy the biggest tomato or potato or whatever it is. They also love getting dirty, but doctors tell us that's good for the healthy development of strong immune systems. Have you read those reports about how kids who never come into contact with a bit of dirt or with animals are much more likely to suffer from asthma? It's fascinating, but don't worry, we make sure they have a good wash before they go home. So, shall we have a look at the classrooms now? We have small classes, usually no more than 10 children per class, but we also have a lot of activities in which the whole school joins in. Sports, running around the outside of the school to warm up on a winter's day, singing. We always enjoy a song or two when we have our daily morning assembly in the assembly hall. Okay, here we are in the first classroom. You see the 10 or so small foam rubber mattresses over there by the cupboard? And we have blankets inside the cupboard. They are for after lunch, when we like the children to have an hour's sleep. Then they have lots of energy until it's time to go home. Oh, I just saw Miss Robbins taking the sandwiches to the staff room. Let's go there now and meet the staff. They are always so excited to meet our children's parents.